Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Okay, welcome everybody to this edition of the Board of Commissioners meeting, or as Commissioner Murdoch would say, the education meeting, Board of Education.
Yeah, I never quite got that down.
So I do want to remind everybody that this is a public meeting and we are being recorded via audio and visual. And if you do want to address the commissioners, come to the podium and give your name and address for the record. With that, we'll go to awards, recognitions, and correspondence. Commissioner Murdoch.
I don't have any today.
Commissioner Doran.
Just that I want to remind everybody of the Transportation and Roads Town Hall on December 6th at the Blue Mountain Community College Library, or Theater, I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, approval of previous minutes.
There aren't any.
We have to be doing. Any additions to the agenda?
Doug, did that pinky get on there?
The one for the grant?
Yeah.
Yes. No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. At this time, public input and recognition of visitors. If you have anything you want to address the board about that's not on the agenda, now is your time. Looking in the room, I see nothing. How about online? Nothing there. Okay, business items. Hoke Bridge contract. Wow, that is deep.
Okay. This is coming before the board to provide its notice of intent to award a contract for the replacement of the Hoke Road Bridge, also known as the Nolan Bridge. This went out for an invitation to bid. There were 5 bids that were received. The low bid is from Markham and Sons LLC in the amount of $1,043,642.25. And the recommendation from the department and the consultant and contractor is to award the contract to the lowest bidder.
Commissioner Doran, did you want to address that one?
Just to inform everyone, and I've talked to Robert about this, this did come in over what we originally allocated for this project. Obviously, the same information that we've heard over and over again is inflation. But I was actually, after looking at the spread of the contracts and the quality of the contractors, I was impressed with the bid that we did get. And I would move for approval of this project.
Are you?
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm reading the bids.
It might take you a while. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the topic? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Help grants.
This is coming before the board for approval for the help grants that were, I believe the committee met earlier in 2022 and is now before the board for formal approval.
I can speak to that. Yes, we did meet. We had great conversations with Mr. Bixby, the new superintendent in Helix, and look forward to moving forward with these projects.
The amount of the award is substantially lower because that's the amount that the county received. So it's equal amounts, again, for equal amounts for a Helix school district and the city of Helix for $3,486.
Are you making a motion, Commissioner Doran?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Moved for approval.
I'll second it.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
The next item is related. This is for appointments to the Helix Enhancement Launch Program Board. There's one vacancy because the former Helix School District Superintendent retired, and so his replacement is Brad Bixler, and that is recommended to fill the vacancy. And then the terms for Jack Bascom and Jerry Turkison have expired, and they're both going to be reappointed.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Camera purchase, looks like Lieutenant Roberts. Did you need to salute him?
I need to see him.
Forgot our booster seat.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lieutenant Josh Roberts, Sheriff's Office. As you're aware, back in March, the board approved purchase of several Dodge Durango patrol vehicles, and part of that purchase included equipment, which included Vista Wi-Fi body cameras from WatchGuard. Motorola has bought out WatchGuard, and a couple weeks ago I was contacted by our sales rep at Motorola that said the Vistas are still on back order. However, those Vistas are being discontinued by Motorola. Their plan was to fulfill whatever back orders they had, but eventually everybody's going to be transitioning to these V300 cameras, which is the newer body camera model. They offered us the option to cancel the discontinued order and give us a full refund and purchase the V300s in replacement, which is what we would like to do. We've already canceled the Vistas. We've received a refund for those in the amount of about $9,400. There's some additional equipment costs with the V300s. There's a charging dock that's mandated for programming and for firmware and software updates, so we have to have at least one charging dock. And then the per camera licensing fee is a little bit more, so that's why there's a little bit more cost associated with it. So today we're asking for approval to purchase the 7 WatchGuard V300 cameras and related equipment as quoted in the amount of $12,555. The actual impact to the budget is about $3,100. As I said, we've already received the refund for the Vistas, but we would like to make this purchase direct from Motorola. Any questions?
I got a quick one. Is there a yearly maintenance fee on this one, Josh?
There's an optional maintenance fee that we can have, but what we've opted not to do the maintenance fee. It's cheaper and more beneficial if there's something that goes down. One of the camera dies. They're about $900 per camera, and so it's in the long term more cost effective to just do it kind of on an a la carte basis rather than do the maintenance fee, which is I think $1,200 or $1,400 a year or something like that. So we've opted not to do the maintenance fee on the cameras.
Thank you. Sounds prudent. I'd move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Are you presenting for the refrigerators? No. I'll take that as a no.
No.
Okay, I was gonna say, I wasn't, but I suppose I
Nice dude to have that look though.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm Mark Tanner, Facilities Manager, Umatilla County. What I have is the bid we received from Ledbetter's to replace the walk-in cooler at the jail kitchen for $40,840.18.
How available is that, Mark?
It sounded like it was pretty readily available at the time that I talked to him.
Okay. The reason I ask is because we have that rental contract going right now on the
Correct.
refrigerated trailer.
Yeah, well, I talked to him probably 2 weeks ago, and he said the equipment was available at that time, so hopefully
Okay.
it's still the same.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioners.
Motion carries. Real quick, there's a phone number on here. I'm looking at the attendees. One's a phone number ending in 70. Is that, who is that for the record?
Commissioners, Tom Roberts.
Oh, thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
No problem. Good talking to you, Commissioners.
Likewise. Okay, number 6, creation of position.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rachel Reynolds. I'm the Director of Assessment, Taxation, and the GIS Department. I've got 6 and 7 are related and has to do both with the GIS Department. We're asking today for a supervisor cartography position. As this county is growing and we've converted over into the Esri system, we have found that several of our layers are not adequate as to what we need for emergency management and our mapping programs. And also over the years, several different departments have had GIS staff within their departments. I used to do it for the assessor's office, and right now I've got another gal that's doing it for our office. And the planning department has also had a GIS person. Julie Alfred handled that position for a long time, and one of their planners is a part-time GIS person at this point. Bob Walder and I have been speaking, and we want to join all the GIS under one umbrella, under one department that would serve the entire county. And in order to do that and to implement this, along with coordinating all the needs of commissioners, the planning department, the sheriff's department, the assessment taxation, we're looking for a supervisor for the cartography department. Then we're also looking, because of the amount the county is growing and the amount of work we've got coming, and trying to get our railroad, roads, easements, all those layers up to date, current, and usable. Right now, a lot of them, we don't have them in a digital format. We're asking for another cartography position that would be equal to the one we have right now with Steve Harvey and his ability. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at the 2 job descriptions. The one for the supervisor is pretty extensive, and we're looking for someone who has some programming, that can program for third-party software, that can go into the Esri system and start pulling different things out with the programming options. The other part of that is we want someone that's very knowledgeable in the Esri system. We've also got analytics in the Esri system that we are not at this point able to utilize. A lot of staff have time to get that deep into it. So like the health department with some of the stuff they run, there's some analytics that our department could do with these positions. So this would open our GIS positions, or our department, up quite a bit for different work. I've also been talking to some other eastern Oregon counties. The smaller counties can't afford their own GIS departments, let alone the software. So they contract with the state. Right now, a lot of them are unhappy with the state. Their products come back wrong. They send them back 2 and 3 different times. So they've asked us if we would have any ability to do their work for them. They pay the state $60 an hour. That's something we've got to work on to see if we can do it for that. But it's an opportunity to bring in revenue for Umatilla County and our GIS department. But we would need additional staff to even begin to start looking at that. So I'm asking for a supervisor position and an additional cartographer position.
We need to do 2 motions.
Yes.
All right, well, first of all, actually I've noticed over the recent years, that your department has become much more efficient technologically and so forth, and we've actually been able to eliminate positions there. And I think we also need to recognize, we celebrate the growth of the county, we celebrate the expansion of industry and all the wonderful things that are happening. Sometimes there's sobering moments when you realize that that comes at a cost. So in that regard, I will make the motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for the supervisor. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make the
Motion
second
carries.
motion as well.
Wait, just a second, let me. That's this one. Okay.
Unless you want to talk more about it.
No, I'm good.
One thing I would add, Chairman, is that I rely on GIS on a couple of projects that I'm involved in, and the response has just been incredible out of Rachel's department. It really is helpful, and they're willing to kind of go outside of their box to help on these projects, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I like also the piece that there are a lot of small counties in eastern Oregon that lack capacity in a variety of areas, as we've seen, and I think it's somewhat incumbent on Umatilla County, as the largest county in eastern Oregon, to be able to serve them and help them out.
Yes.
Okay, so we got a motion. Was there a second on that one?
Second, yeah, I did.
Okay, got a motion, a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. BLM comment letter.
I can talk to that if you want me to. I've asked Doug to draft this letter. It is in response to the public comment period for the South Fork of the Walla Walla, the 2,000 acres the BLM manages above Harris Park, borders Harris Park, and then up on the other end, just below the burnt cabin bridge. And what it really is asking for is a sit-down, real discussion with the BLM before we even look at it joint or entertaining an MOU with them to participate in the creation of the new management plan and the AEC for that area. I'd move for approval.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, community development grant.
I'll speak to that. Historically, Clackamas County sponsored, but was actually a statewide conference, and I believe the Commissioner Schaefer may have attended, but he's certainly well aware of it. It primarily dealt with child abuse and neglect. I think it was attended by 1,000 people or more. It was quite an event, but with the advent of COVID, they stopped doing so.
No, I just overlooked it. I'm good.
Oh, all right. Anyway, with the advent of COVID, they stopped doing so. District Attorney Dan Primus met with me indicating that he and his department, as well as the Guardian Care Center, are wishing to institute something like that in this area. I think the boundaries will be from Hood River to Jordan Valley in terms of who he's inviting, but they expect maybe 500 people or more for a 2-day conference. I think everyone's well aware that the incidence of child abuse and neglect has gone up dramatically in the last few years, and I think it's incumbent on us we owe it to make an investment in the welfare of the children of this area. And so I'm moving that we provide a community development grant to this project as a way of making sure that it goes well. And I'm delighted that they're providing the leadership on behalf of the county.
I was just gonna commend our district attorney on his leadership and moving this forward. I think it's a fantastic thing, and props to our district attorney, Mr. Primus.
All right.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Finance office computer purchase.
Robert Paul, CFO. In preparation for the software changeover, we want to upgrade our computer equipment to be compatible with the new system and to be capable of running all the new features we may have. That's going to include computers and scanners, and also a new computer for our new employee. So we'll be prepared when that happens. We are definitely starting the process of the software conversion, so I assume that's going to be sooner rather than I expected.
Move for approval.
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Don't quote him, Robert.
Well, I have to get my reading material.
Okay, the next item is supplemental budgets, and it's public hearing mode. So we're going to suspend our regular meeting and go into public hearing mode at this time. Take it away.
Staff report for supplemental budgets this morning. There are 15 supplemental budgets for your consideration this morning. I will summarize them. Budget Order 2023-27. The Parks Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $31,359, an increase in personnel services of $13,359, and an increase in contingency of $18,000. Budget Order 2023-28, Parks, the County Trails Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers in of $250,000 and an increase in materials and services of $250,000. Budget Order 2023-29, Sheriff's Department Dispatch. The dispatch program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers in of $225,941 and an increase in personnel services of $225,941. Budget Order 2023-30, Human Services Mental Health Reserve requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires a decrease in beginning cash of $248,000, an increase in local revenue of $58,000, and a decrease in contingency of $190,000. Budget Order 2023-31, Fair Improvement. The program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in federal revenue of $1 million and an increase in materials and services of $1 million. Budget Order 2023-32, Community Justice Department. Community Corrections Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $509,777, an increase in personnel services of $259,777, and an increase in contingency of $250,000. Budget Order 2023-33, Community Justice Department Justice Reinvestment Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $165,530, an increase in personnel services of $5,530, and an increase in contingency of $160,000. Budget Order 2023-34, Economic Development. The program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $577,897, an increase in personnel services of $52,897, and an increase in contingency of $520,000, excuse me. Budget Order 2023-36, Public Works, the Weed Department, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers in of $62,454, an increase in personnel services of $28,454, and an increase in materials and services of $34,000. Budget Order 2023-37, Fair. The Fair requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $73,692, an increase in local revenue of $400,000, an increase in personnel services of $14,692, an increase in materials and services of $403,000, and an increase in contingency of $56,000. Budget Order 2023-38, Prepaid Taxes, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $78,000 and an increase in materials and services of $78,000. Budget Order 2023-39, CARE, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $277,000, an increase in personnel services of $46,101, and an increase in contingency of $230,399. Budget Order 2023-40, Community Benefit Plans, Local Improvement Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in the beginning cash of $1,650,000, an increase in local revenue of $1,750,000, an increase in materials and services of $1 million, and an increase in contingency of $2,400,000. Budget Order 2023-41 Courthouse Security requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires a decrease in local revenue of $60,000, an increase in transfers in of $60,000, an increase in personnel services of $53,197, and an increase in materials and services of $6,803. And Budget Order 2023-45 Law Library requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $16,000, an increase in materials and services of $24,000, and a decrease in contingency of $8,000. That's a summary of the supplemental budgets this morning.
Any questions or comments from the board?
None for me.
Questions, comments from the public? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll come out of hearing mode, go back into our regular meeting, and allow Commissioner Murdoch to dazzle us with his dulcet tones.
I'm the only one of you who's not a professional talker. But with that, I move for the approval of Budget Order 2023-27.
Second.
A motion is second, all fair say aye.
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 Move for the approval of Budget Order 2023-28.
Second.
A motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
Aye. Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-29.
Second.
A motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
Aye. I move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-30.
Second.
A motion is second, all fair the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-31.
Second.
A motion is second, all fair the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-32.
Second.
Motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-33.
Second.
A motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-34.
Second.
Motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-36.
Second.
Motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-37.
Second.
Motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-38.
Second.
Motion is second, all fair the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-39.
Second.
The motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-40.
Second.
Okay, the motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-41.
Second.
Got a motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of Budget Order 2023-45.
Second.
Got a motion is second, all fair the motion say aye.
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 Council, I'm sure you've been following that. Did we get them all? Okay.
Zipping right along to item number 12, budget transfers.
Robert Paul, CFO. This morning there are 4 budget transfers for you to consider. I will summarize them. Budget Order 2023-35 Public Works requires a transfer of appropriation to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in personnel services of $195,272, an increase in materials and services of $528,500, and a decrease in contingency of $723,772. Budget Order 2023-42 Dispatch Reserve requires a transfer of appropriation to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in materials and services of $21,000 and a decrease in contingency of $21,000. And Budget Order 2023-43 Fleet Management requires a transfer appropriation to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in materials services of $37,000, an increase in capital outlay of $100,000, and a decrease in contingency of $137,000. And finally, and I'm gonna have to check the number on this, budget order 2023-05 is what my records say, but I believe that's incorrect.
Should be 44.
44, budget order should be 2023-44. General fund requires a transfer of appropriation to appropriate funding not known at the document of budget. This requires an increase in transfers out of $348,395 and a decrease in contingency of $348,395.
I will say that the pinky and the order itself does say 2023-44, just so you're aware.
Great, thank you very much.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I move for the adoption of budget order 2023-35.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of budget order 2023-42.
Second.
Got a motion is second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Move for the adoption of budget order 2023-43.
Second.
Got a motion is second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Move for the adoption of budget order 2023-44.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we have reached the end of our business items. With that, Commissioner comments, Commissioner Doran.
None other than just, none, I already mentioned the town hall, so I'm good.
Commissioner Murdoch.
I'm good. You did provide a lot of heavy lifting near the end of my tenure, but waded through it.
Okay, well, I have nothing as well. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.